Welcome back to Transaction Care. My name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily, like the flower, because we are learning and growing together. And I'm joining you guys today a little earlier than usual because I want to make sure that I give you guys ample time to ask any questions. I do have a hard stop today. Last minute plans surfaced, so I do have to go, which would have cut into our live stream time. So I'm here now, and I was actually in the middle of getting ready for the event I have to go to later. Um, but we are here, and I'm so pumped because we're going to talk about real estate transaction coordination. I'm in the process of um, submitting a broker demand right now, so I'm currently working as I'm doing this live stream, which is just the reality of it all because these plans occurred last minute and I do not want to be late. So while more people come in here, a few things that I want you guys to check out if you're watching the replay is to definitely make sure you watch my interview with Priscilla Solorio. It went live yesterday, so definitely check it out. Um it's definitely worth the watch because, as I always say, no two stories are ever exactly the same. No two journeys are the same. Even if we're both trying to do the same exact job, everyone's route to getting to the finish line, or at least the starting line, is completely different. And in her situation, she went through a lot of, I would say, heavy occurrences. And through that, she still persevered and was resilient um, in her life's path and in showing up, because it's not easy when you're going through severe heavy losses in your life and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn to, and you're self-employed. What would you do? What do you do? And I can definitely relate in that sense. When I first became self-employed, the whole purpose was to take care of my grandmother. It was not actually to be a transaction coordinator. I was just very grateful that transaction coordination followed, but for the most part I was ultimately quitting my job to be a caretaker, to be available until my money ran out, and then I was going to figure it out from there. But fortunately enough, transaction coordination continued to follow me through this journey, and I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful. But in that season of grief and heavy loss, it was very confusing. It was hard to navigate that season because I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do anything, and I didn't properly grieve the way that one should. But there also isn't one specific way that people could or should grieve, so it all just varies. It's never like, well, if you cry you'll feel better, if you laugh you'll feel better. It's like the range of emotions hits you at different times. And then when you are your own livelihood, having to also show up for that with a smile on your face, or a willingness to respond to emails, to follow up, to have your phone, be ringing, and texts and phone calls off the hook while all of that is happening. It's difficult. And it's moments like that where you really have to, like, you really have to, I hate to use the word step up, but you really have to step up for yourself and advocate for yourself, because that's where the communication part really kicks in. If you're self-employed, is when you're having to, and it doesn't have to be like anything so as drastic as losing someone, but it could also just be if you're sick, or if um, something came up last minute that's taking you away from what was the original plan. I think as long as you communicate through all of that, it will always work out. And one of the parts that stood out to me in her episode, which I'm actually going to link here in our live stream, but one of the parts that stood out to me that I think doesn't get talked about enough is when you do have to take extended amount of time, or when you do have to grieve, or when you do have to go through sabbaticals or even pregnancy. Like women get pregnant and are unable to work most of the time afterwards, maternity leave, paternity leave. Excuse me. So these are things that the working force does not favor, and that does not really prioritize, no matter how much they say. 3 months is not enough for a woman to recover, to get her feet back on the ground, to get her body feeling like herself. Postpartum, they say lasts, I don't have kids, but I've just heard from other stories and other women that postpartum lasts minimum 2 years, minimum. So how can you expect someone to bounce back after 3 months after any life altering occasion? And she said that she lost clients because she was going through that, because they knew how much that would ultimately take her away from her being of service to them. Isn't that terrible? So it was definitely a a rude awakening, to say the least, when you have to go through those things and you get fired from your job because it's just not right. It's just not right. And that was one of my favorite parts of her, not favorite parts, but it was one of the parts that really stood out to me that I want to continue to talk more about in my content, in what I'm sharing with you guys. Because as I mentioned, if many of you are trying to do this as a business, you also have to factor in, okay, well, what if you get sick? What if your vacation or your travel time uh, got extended and you're going to be late for something? Are you good at communication? Are you good at showing up when things don't go right? How are you going to present that to others? Or are you nervous? Are you scared? Uh, Let me just send this email real quick. Please review and amend as needed. So communication is key. Just like how I'm sending this email, I was going to wait until tomorrow, but I said, you know what? This is important. And what I'm doing later today just occurred. It was a last minute change in my schedule, a good one, a good plan of events. But at the same time, I have to make sure that the work I have on my plate, that nothing is pressing, nothing is urgent, because if there's something I can do right now, why not? I don't want to be arrogant in my ways and assume like, oh, I can do it tomorrow. You know, and these are things that I have control over in doing. Um, okay. Yeah. And thankfully, I have an extra day to take care of this file. It was supposed to close in September and it got moved up to Thursday. It was originally going to close tomorrow and no one told me. So, this is the reality of being a transaction coordinator. You can have a transaction closing in September. So, basically, you kind of let your guard down and you don't really have the disclosures. You don't really have the access to the file yet because no one's really communicating with you. Also, no one really said you have to do this or that. Then all of a sudden, you're getting the final walkthrough in your inbox and you're wondering, well, that's odd because I don't have this scheduled for another month and a half to close. And I email my realtor and I say, hey, realtor, are we closing earlier than expected? Question mark. And he responds a few hours later. And that's the other part about real estate and transaction coordination is you're not always going to get a response to your questions instantly because everyone's out doing their own thing. And it's sometimes you'll get a quick response and you can move on with the next task. Other times you just have to sit and wait. That's just the reality of it all is you have to sit and wait to get your questions answered because they're busy. And vice versa. Sometimes I don't respond right away because I'm in the middle of doing a file and I don't have my inbox open all the time. It's open, but I'll have other tabs in front of it, preventing me from actually seeing what's coming into my inbox. But he responds like after hours, I think, and I checked it and it said, "Yeah, we're closing 8/5, which is tomorrow." And this is what I read last night. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So first thing in the morning, after I did my morning routine, I knew I had to tackle this transaction because the buyer's agent hadn't sent me the disclosures. I still don't have his agent visual inspection disclosure. There's just a plethora of things missing. So now I'm having to scramble. And I already put the request out for these items. I just never received them back. So it's not like I wasn't doing work on the file. I just wasn't pressing people to get these things because they weren't urgent. I had other matters to take care of. I had a transaction close the other day that had added 5 new buyers to the contract. So I was focused on that. Like I went into Friday night like, okay, whew, let me catch my breath because that was intense, and making sure we had all 5 there. Then I had another transaction where the buyers, no, the sellers, it's a father-daughter. The father does not know how to use the internet at all. And then the emails that they were giving me kept bouncing back. And my realtor wouldn't believe me. He said, "Are you typing the emails correctly?" And I never type out emails. I simply copy and paste. Copy and paste. And I kept telling him they're bouncing back. So I said, "Okay, screw it. He doesn't believe me. I'm going to send the disclosures and hopefully they send. If they don't, you should have believed me the first time." Of course, they bounce back and I let him know. I was like, "Hey, I just sent the disclosures." I text him, FYI. He said, "Great, thank you." Maybe like 2 hours later, I get an email. "Oh, my seller never received any of your emails." Really? Really? Okay. Let me get my jacket. I'm a little cold now. But you know what I mean? Like, you really didn't get my emails? I mean, they really didn't get my emails. I wonder why. Because I because I told you that the emails bounce back. So a day in the life of I should rename the video, this live stream, "A Day in the Life of a Transaction Coordinator," because this stuff really happens. All of this happened in the past 3 days. So giving you guys an inside glimpse of to how I navigate these things is important because when you get into those situations, I want you to know that most of the time it's not they're ignoring you situation. It's not they don't, you know, it's not a personal attack on you. People take time to respond, so you just have to keep it moving, which is why it's important to do things ahead of time so you're not scrambling at the very end. Even if like for me, I couldn't control the fact that these transactions were closing a month and a half early. And then another one is closing on Thursday. I still had time to do what I needed to do, but when you add a new transaction into the mix, it throws off the flow a little bit. So always be doing the work ahead of time, no matter how far out the transaction, no matter how far out the transaction is closing or coming on the market, stay ready. So even if you have to prepare the disclosures in a draft, and then all you have to do is hit send when the time comes, do that. If you have to make sure that you've put out all your requests to request those signed disclosures, to send our parties whatever they need to be signed, to get those signed, to communicate with your realtor, staying in communication. Like, maybe if a transaction is closing 3 months from now, doing like an every other, excuse me, doing like an every other week check-in. That way you're not scrambling at the last minute or they're not leaving you out of communication like my realtor did. He randomly just sent me the final walkthrough yesterday as if I already knew what was going on. So I'm reaching out to the buyer's agent and I said, "Hey, buyer's agent, do you have the signed disclosure packet?" She said, "I sent them to you last week." And I'm just like, why are they not including me in these emails? So that's truthfully the reality of being a transaction coordinator, is having to manage different timelines. Even when you know there's a set timeline for that transaction, everyone's working at different paces. So I may be working on disclosures today, but my clients, my realtors may not be meeting with their clients for another 3 weeks. It truly just varies. And with that said, there we go. So with that said, many people that want to become transaction coordinators often don't realize these nuances of communication. Like one of my coaching clients, she asked me, like, is it normal for them not to respond to you? I said yes and no to an extent. Yes, because they're busy. They're not always at their desk checking their emails. That's why we are here. That's why we exist. We're not there checking their inbox. We're not responding or working in their inbox, but we're the ones typically behind the desk doing the admin work per se. And the realtors should be, quote unquote, out in the field, meaning they're out at either open houses, meeting with clients, prospecting, doing market research, creating content, whatever the case may be. And if they're an active realtor, they should probably have like a tight schedule that includes at some point checking their inbox. More than likely, it's at the end of the evening, the end of the day, or early morning. And if they have an assistant or a team member, be in strong communication with that person, because they're more likely to be a liaison between you and the realtor versus you waiting on the realtor to respond to how to communicate, how to get things done. Okay. But day in life, these have just been the past 3 days, okay, of what happened in these transactions. Shout out to everyone that's in here. Make sure you drop a comment. Today's live stream is going to be a little shorter than usual because I got a last minute invitation to go, I'll be honest with you guys, to a Golden State Valkyries game tonight. And I need to be there by 5:00. So in the next hour. Thankfully, I'm not too far from the arena, but it still takes time to call a car and get there and meet people and do the whole shebang. So I decided to just come into the live stream earlier and give you guys some time so we could chat. And don't forget, August, in the month of August, I'm going live 3 times a week. So Tuesdays. So next week we'll be back on regularly scheduled programming at 4:00 Pacific Standard Time. But starting tomorrow, I'll be live at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that might be 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's the afternoon for other people. But that live stream is going to be for those that aren't able to attend these later in the day live streams. And then Thursday, I'm going to go live at 9 p.m. So that's going to be midnight for some people. So that's for my night shift crew, for those that are, working the late night shift, grinding at night. And I'll be on live here on YouTube as well as TikTok. But the 4 p.m. Tuesday slot, we are here right now. So I'm going to stay on for maybe another 15 minutes. So let's get in our questions. For those that missed the first 30 minutes of this live, I went on about 20 minutes ago. So what I was talking about is making sure you check out this week's TC interview that I did with Priscilla Solorio. It's a great episode, a great conversation. Once again, no two journeys into transaction coordination are ever the same. Her and I are doing very similar work in the same state, but her journey here into this job was completely different. And on top of that, she went through a lot of grief, a lot of loss, and still navigated her way into self-employment, and how she, maintained her composure, was resilient and persevered through everything she went through. I'm not even going to bring it up because I want you guys to check that video out for yourself, that conversation, and leave a comment. I pinned it here in the chat. So if you're in the chat, make sure you click the link to that video and watch it after this live stream, because it was a good one. It was a great one. I'm going to release another interview, not next week, but the week after. I like this every other week schedule. So in between, I'll add clips from these live streams as a video in between. And then the following Monday, you guys will get an interview. How does that sound? But that one was good. The next interview, and I made a playlist for all of these, for this content, for the interviews, for the live streams. So if you miss anything, just go to my profile. Everything is there. And when I logged in earlier today, because I had a last minute invitation to the game tonight, I wanted to make sure that my inbox was good. I didn't want to just walk away, start this live stream and have, pending work that was going to stress me out tonight, or I'd have to come back to my desk later tonight. So I was actually doing the work while I was talking to you guys here on live earlier, for those that missed it. But I was talking about how I have a transaction that basically is closing a month and a half early. And as a transaction coordinator, no matter how far out a listing is coming on the market or closing, it's always best to do your work ahead of time, to always be working at it, chipping away at it, putting out your requests, staying in communication with people, because I only found out we were closing tomorrow. Well, now it got pushed back to Thursday, but we were initially supposed to close tomorrow. I only found out because my realtor emailed me the final walkthrough. And I looked at the address and I was like, is this a mistake? And I looked at my calendar. I was like, wait a minute. I emailed my realtor and I said, are we closing sooner than expected? He said, yeah, the 5th, 8/5. And I said, whoa, that's like, I have nothing. So I reached out to the realtor, the buyer's agent. I told my realtor, we're still missing all these things. And thankfully I had already been requesting these items, but now it's like, I have to ramp it up. I have to speed up the process. So that's probably going to throw off my flow of things. It's going to, it opens up the opportunity for me to panic or be stressed or to, make impulsive decisions. And I don't want that. So I'm still going to keep my cool through this process and not rush through anything. I know what's missing. I know what we have and we don't have. Reached out to the realtor on the other side and I was like, hey, buyer's agent, where's the disclosures? And she said, I already sent them to you. As it turns out, she resent them to me, and I looked at the email thread. I'm nowhere to be found. Once again, TCs get left off of emails. It happens. It's normal. It's unfortunate, but it is normal, which is why we have to take initiative to stay in communication, to check in when transactions are so far out that you have no idea what's going on. So maybe doing like a every other week check-in. What's the status of this transaction? So that way, if you have been left off of communication, your realtor can say, oh yeah, we're actually coming on the market tomorrow. Can you send me the disclosures so I can sit with my clients? So it's important to know that at any given moment, timelines can change. So you have to be on your toes. You have to be agile and be able to maneuver when those things happen. Unfortunately, I'm not managing a lot of transactions, so it's easy for me to navigate this at my pace. Versus in the past, like a couple years ago, 5 years ago, I was managing so much, but that was all I was doing. So I was able to get through it. Whereas now I have a bunch of other projects that I'm working on the side. So my attention is kind of split all over the place. And had all of that occurred while I was still managing a lot of files, it would have rocked me emotionally or mentally. Whereas now I'm trying not to take things so personally or let them, let them take me off course too much or at all. But definitely make sure you guys check out today's, my recent video that I released with Priscilla Solario. Great conversation. Make sure you guys are subscribed here because I'm going to go live again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today's live stream was a little different because I did have last minute plans surface. So I'm going to cut the live stream short in about 15 minutes because I want to make sure I have enough time to finish getting ready and make it on time to where I need to be. But if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I also updated my discovery call calendar. So if you guys have questions, please add them. Also, group coaching. So if you are in my Patreon community and you have joined the transformation tier membership, if you are a part of the transformation membership tier, meaning you are investing money there, I'm going to be launching group coaching for those people exclusively. So group coaching for those people specifically. Right now, there's about 3 members. I've been back and forth with you guys trying to figure out what date works best. So I'm going to check in with you guys tomorrow about that, and we can get something on the calendar for August. We're going to meet once a month because there's only a small handful of us. It might be this week, it might be next week, the week after, end of the month. We shall see, but you guys are going to get 30 minutes of undivided attention exclusively with myself over Zoom. It's not going to be public. It's not going to be anything. And if only one of you shows up, then bonus, you get your one-on-one with me once a month. And if you know me, you know that I'll say 30 minutes and we'll hold you to that. But at the same time, if it goes longer, just make sure you have a buffer of time that can where you can remain in the live stream a little longer. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck in those sessions, but it's going to be nice. Once I start promoting this and getting the word out, it's going to be nice to have, just some of us, two or more of us gathering and talking about our journeys and where we need help in our business, how we can improve, how can we, help each other out as well. And that's something I've been wanting to do for so long. I just didn't know how to present it or when I was ever going to present it, if I was. And I'm here now, and I'm pumped to say that August is the beginning of that segment in this journey. So Rosie, I know you're a part of the group. So if it's just me and you for now, it's just me and you. We're gonna rock out and have some fun. I want to help you guys. It's a limited amount of people that can join for now, but I want to start with just getting those first 10 people in there. If I can get 10 people in the door, that would be amazing. But I know I have to start somewhere. And one of my bad habits, I have to admit, full transparency, is if the numbers, I get discouraged very quickly. And this is something I realized, I'd say probably in the past few years, recently. I get very discouraged easily when I have a grand idea and it doesn't take off right away. But I have to remember these things take time to grow. And if I can at least help one person in the process, then I'm still doing the work. And I have to be able to show up for one or 100 and be prepared and grow from there. So if I don't start now, I won't ever do it. So done is better than perfect. And I'm very excited and pumped too. And I'm very hopeful that this part of the journey will be now available in a group setting. And also one-on-one coaching is still available. But those are just some updates on my end. Becoming a transaction coordinator, I feel like, is becoming more popular in this day and age. And I know that a lot of people, especially with AI, it's taking over. It's becoming more accessible to people to try to create a lane in this space where everyone has their own program now. Everyone has their own AI. I don't even know what it's called, but they have their own AI platforms and programs. And I'll be honest, it's kind of hard to keep up with all of it because I don't know what's real. I don't know what's fake. I don't know who's been in the industry, who hasn't, which is also another reason why I'm doing these live streams, because I want you guys to know you have access to a real person in real time. So if you do sign up for any of these programs or use any of these softwares in your day-to-day business and you're unsure of what to use or whatnot, you can come to me and we can talk it over, because it's definitely a challenge to know, what's going to work, what's not, what program is going to have every single thing I need. And even in my interview with Priscilla, she talks about, I believe she said she's like building out her own system and her own software or program that's going to be catered to just her needs, because the programs she uses are great, but she wants something that will meet all of her nuances and needs that don't necessarily show up with other programs. So it's going to be interesting to see where transaction coordination goes moving forward. But just know, transaction coordination is not the end all be all. Like, start as an office assistant, start as a part-time assistant, start as a realtor's assistant, a transaction coordinator's assistant, an escrow officer, title officer assistant, a real estate attorney assistant, a real estate teacher's aide, a real estate teacher. Like, there's so many avenues that you can take just to get started. You just have to get your foot in the door, and through that part-time work, you get your feet wet. And then you work your way around this industry and navigate, okay, where do I actually fit in? What skills do I possess that I can match with a career or a job? And take it from there. Some offices offer free coaching and free training if you work with them. Take advantage of that. I was helping someone a couple months ago, and I told her, I was like, give this a try. See how it fares. Reach out to some local offices. If you know people in real estate, reach out to them. See what their brokerages offer. And maybe you just work with that brokerage in the meantime. See if they offer free training, free programs. Maybe they offer scholarships. Maybe they offer discounts on certain things. When I worked at an office, they paid for my real estate license for me to take the classes. So I took full advantage of that. I saved money there. And I made sure I did that before I quit. It was a part of working there. So I took full advantage of it, you know? But um there are plenty of opportunities. It could feel awkward and uncomfortable because real estate is very unconventional. It's not a traditional path that most people take because most people are self-employed unless you are able to find an office job in person or remotely. Everyone else is pretty much self-employed. Realtors are self-employed, unless you're the broker that owns the company, right? Or you're the TC that owns the agency. I mean, technically, it's still self-employed. um, so knowing how to navigate life independently is very important. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, I'm gonna be on here for another 10 more minutes. But I do have to go. I have a hard stop today at 4:20, so I can get ready to head out. I had a last minute event that I have to attend. I have to be there by 5 o'clock. Thankfully, it's close by, but at the rate I move, I need to make sure that I don't forget anything. Um, but how's everyone's week been so far? I shared at the beginning of this live stream how all of my transactions, something changes with them. Well, most of them, something changes. Like we had it was a standard single, okay, it wasn't too standard, but it was like a residential and a commercial sale with one buyer. And then the week before we were supposed to close, they added 4 more buyers to the contract. And they all were under different entities. So they were all under their own LLCs. They were all under their own management companies. So it wasn't like 5 like family members bought the home. It was like 5 different businesses bought this building. It was a trip. So because I then had to rewind, backtrack, gather all the disclosures, tag each of them 5 times each individual initial signature. Thankfully, I've done this so many times. I have my ways to make it faster where I basically just copy and paste all the signatures and initials into different spots. But it's still a lot of work when you're at the finish line and the original buyer has signed everything. And now you have to start all over with 5 additional people added to the contract. By the end of the week, I was exhausted. Okay. And then this week, just yesterday, I found out a transaction is closing a month and a half earlier. It was supposed to close tomorrow. Now it's closing. Well, they're targeting for Thursday. But the work I was supposed to do in a month and a half, I now have to scramble and get done in 24 hours. Not impossible, but if you have a lot on your plate, or if you waited to the last minute to do all your other work, now you kind of made your situation worse for you, which is why time management is key. Knowing, okay, what do I have ahead of time? Can I prepare something? Can I add something to my drafts? So when the time comes, all I have to do is hit send. Or is this something I need to stay in constant communication with my realtors? Like I really hadn't heard anything about that transaction up until last week when the realtor finally was going to meet with her buyer to get the disclosure signed. And she never sent me a copy of the disclosures until I asked her for them. And she said, I did send them. And I looked at the email thread. I was not CC'd on anything. So it's normal for transaction coordinators to not be included on correspondence. Okay, guys. So don't take those things personally in terms of like, how am I supposed to get my work done if no one's talking to me? It's not you. They're probably just out doing something else for the business, hopefully. But if I don't hear from someone right away, especially if a transaction that was supposed to close a month and a half ago later is now closing in a day and a half, you're going to get a phone call or a text. And I would hope your realtor includes you in these conversations. But I've been working with this realtor for almost a decade now, and they're great to work with. But sometimes there are miscommunications. It's not, and it's never perfect. But as long as this only happens like once in a blue moon, not every single transaction, then I can handle that. It was a quick, it was a quick few emails, and I got everything I needed, and vice versa. So as long as you get your reps in and continue to take on as many files in the beginning as you can so you can learn and grow, even if you just do one, I'm sorry, even if you just do one transaction in the beginning when you're just getting started, that's going to help you to understand, okay, I've seen a whole transaction from beginning to end. How did I feel? Where did I go wrong? It's like an athlete when they rewatch game tape, the footage in from the game, when they rewatch the game or their highlights and lowlights. Where can I correct things? Where can I move a little quicker? Where do I need to slow down? So much like you're auditing the files, you're also auditing yourself as a transaction coordinator or an admin or an assistant or whatever you're doing in this space. Because if you don't, you're going to look up and be like, what did I just do? Where am I? How did I get here? And then it gets overwhelming very quickly. But because I've been through this so many times, I'm very grateful for my experience. I was able to just kick it into high gear when I needed to. Because I also know when things like this happen, obviously it's out of my control. So all I have to do is just do my part. And if the other side doesn't reciprocate or respond to my requests, I just have to do my part. Keep requesting. Ask my realtor, can you nudge the other realtor? Because we need this ASAP. I'll put urgent in the titles. I will send out phone calls, text messages if necessary to get things quicker. Excuse me. My allergies are kicking up again. Probably because my window is wide open. Yeah. So it's being able to navigate whether a file is being rushed to close all of a sudden, or if it's just sitting on the market doing nothing. There's always work to be done on every single transaction. You just have to stay ready, so you got to get ready. But if you guys need help with these types of scenarios or activities or anything, make sure you join the community, subscribe to this channel, but also schedule a one-on-one discovery call with me. That's the best entry point in which you could reach me and ask me questions about my coaching services, my content, transaction coordination, real estate, business, mindset. It's the quickest way to reach me. I'm going to put the link here in the chat because I want you guys to be able to know exactly what to do, and also just visit my website, join the newsletter, sign up for my email, my weekly email newsletter, as well as just joining the community. The community is also where I literally post all of my content. I have group coaching options, one-on-one coaching options. Hi, Marie. How are you? I'm actually wrapping up this live in like the next 3 minutes. So I'm glad you're able to make it on here. If anyone else is on here, please say hi before I close and end this live stream. I'm going to be live again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Specific, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So whatever that time is for you, set your alarms if you can make it. Don't worry if you can't. This is my first time going live in the morning. I'm testing out different times, but don't worry. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is not going to change. But for the month of August, I'm adding 2 more time slots to go live, morning and night. I might move the Wednesday time slot to Thursday in the future, whereas like Thursday morning I go live and then Thursday night I go live. Because Wednesdays I do a lot of coaching. Oh, awesome, Marie. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad. That's the whole point of all of this, making sure I can help you guys. Hi, Jan Raymond. How are you? Yeah, but schedule a discovery call with me if you want to ask me any questions. I'm glad to help. Just give you guys some guidance and direction in your journey. as best as I can. I may not have all the answers, but I'll have some. I'll have some. And I want to at least be able to guide you guys in the right direction. Okay. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I'll stay on here for another couple more minutes. But this was great. I'm glad we got a chance to at least say hello. I got to share this week in day in the life of a transaction coordinator and just the ups and downs and how things can quickly change overnight or within minutes. And then you just have to, it's a sprint. You know, what was once just a casual walk in the park now is turning into a marathon sprint. And you just have to adjust and, you know, when to turn it on and when to turn it off. But thank you guys again. I'm just making sure everything is good to go on my end. But if you guys don't have any questions, thank you so much for being here. I wish I could stay on a little longer, but unfortunately, and fortunately, some last minute plans came up where I'm actually going to go see one of my favorite basketball teams play in person. I got invited at the very last minute. I couldn't say no, guys. I'm sorry. If I could go live at the game, I would, but the reception in there is not that great. But that is my alarm, so I do have to go. I will be back on live tomorrow morning. So, and I had a meeting that I was supposed to have tomorrow, but it got canceled. So maybe tomorrow will be a very long stream. We'll see. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening. Make sure you check out, I'm going to pin it right here. I'm going to pin the message, but make sure you watch this week's video with Priscilla Solorio. It was a great conversation. Watch that and leave a comment so I know you watched it and you were in this live stream. But until the next live stream, until the next video, care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Talk soon. Have a good night, everyone, or morning, wherever you're at in the world.